With everything going on in the world, people need to be uplifted. They need something that promotes character, creativity, confidence, and joy. The GRN show is not just an average talk show. The topics are powerful and will make you think. Join me on this journey to be informed, to relate, to connect, and to evolve. Good evening and welcome. My name is Ruiz-Nicolas. I'm your host for the GRN show. You know, most adults like myself with grown children would not think that the healthcare industry impact us, right? On the contrary, it is an issue that affects each and every one of us. You know, Nelson Mandela once said at a grand opening in his hometown, opening a childcare center, he mentioned that our children are the rock which our future will be built on. Our greatest asset as a nation are our children. And I do believe that. I believe it is a fact. And my hope with today is to kind of highlight some of the major crises we're faced as a community, in fact, as a country. It has to do with the early learning system. I have the pleasure of bringing with me one of our guests, Renee Jaffee, who is the executive director of the Early Learning Coalition. She will address the challenges and some of the opportunities in Broward County and how we are addressing these issues. So with that, Renee, welcome. And I am so glad you're with us today.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to having a conversation with you about the early learning system in Broward County.
So let's start with, tell us a little bit about the Early Learning Coalition, its functions, as well as how it assists families.
Absolutely. So the Early Learning Coalition is the local administrator of state and federal funds for early learning. And what that actually means is we have a couple of programs that we're funded to have for the families and childcare providers in our community. And really, it's threefold. We have a program called our School Readiness Program that is a financial assistance program for childcare. And this is for parents primarily who are income eligible, right? There's a threshold for income that they need to have in order to be part of the system. And this is for parents who have children birth to 5 or up to 12 for aftercare programs. And what this does, it allows parents who are working or in a training or educational program to remain either in their job or in their training program while their child is learning and thriving in an early learning environment, in a safe and nurturing place where they can go and parents can do their things. And it's such a beneficial program, not only because it allows parents to work or go to school and children to learn, but it also really helps to mitigate the high cost of childcare. I mean, we know that families should only be paying about 7% of their income for childcare, but that is just not the reality. Mm-hmm. Childcare is very expensive. Most families struggle to even afford it. And for those that have more than one child, it can really be a burden to them.
Absolutely.
And puts them in a position where they have to make decisions about is it worth it to go back to work? Is it worth it to stay in this training? Can I really afford that? So that's our school readiness program. And we also have our voluntary pre-kindergarten program. Some people know it as VPK. And this is it's a free program, which we all love that. It's free for Florida's 4-year-olds. And in some cases, 5-year-olds that are not enrolled in kindergarten because of when their birthday lands. But this is a program, generally, it's about 3+ hours a day. But what it really does is it prepares children for kindergarten. Studies show that if children are not ready to learn when they get to kindergarten that first day, that it could be a problem later on. They may struggle. I mean, they certainly may not, but this is to give every child the most success that they can have from the start of kindergarten. So it's a wonderful program. And we have generally, on average, we serve somewhere between 12,000 and 17,000 Broward 4-year-olds every year in that voluntary pre-K program. And similarly, in our school readiness program that I talked about earlier, right now we have a little over 13,000 children enrolled in that program. And on an average, we serve about 17,000 in that program. And the third component I just want to mention, which I really love, it's one of my favorite components because it is the quality. We call it our quality and education services. And it's where we provide professional development, training, support, mentoring, coaching to the childcare community. And whether you have a contract with us, we contract with 750 childcare programs. Wow. Yes, in Broward, that we reimburse for the care of the children that are in the programs that we have, that I mentioned, that school readiness and that voluntary pre-K program. And we also can provide resources to them. We help them, I believe that we help them to be stronger as a system, right? That they can provide true quality care in our community. And to that, we also provide resources for our parents too, right? These are our children's first teachers, and we want to make sure that they're equipped and that they're also reading to their children and helping them as well to complement the learning that goes on in their childcare center or childcare home.
Those are very important component in a child's development. I'm so glad to hear that you guys provide the necessary assistance, not only to the child care facilities and the workers, but to the parents as well. I know the VPK program has been like a gift to many parents, but when you mention 3 hours a day, if the parent is working, how do they complement the additional hours?
That's a great question. So the 3 hours, it really depends on the program. The state reimburses childcare providers for a certain amount of hours per year. So it really depends on when the VPK school year starts and ends. Mm-hmm. Okay, some programs have longer hours because they don't go the whole entire school year. They may start later and end earlier. Mm-hmm. And then there's also summer VPK, and that would be full day because there's less hours in the summer. But to your point, a program that is operating on a school calendar, similar to public school or private school, K through 12, that is an issue for some parents. Now, there are programs that have both of our programs in them. They have our school readiness program and they have our VPK program. So that allows them to stay full day. But again, the school readiness program is income-based and VPK is not. So there are some parents that do have to, take on that cost burden for that VPK. I mean, we'd love for it to be longer hours because we feel that it's so essential and important. But we're very glad that the state has invested what it has in this program, and hopefully someday it will be there will be full day programs for all 4-year-olds to prepare them.
Terrific. Now tell us a little bit about some of the issues that we're faced with, particularly as it relates to early childhood education?
Sure. So there are a few issues that we've been faced with. A lot of them have been deep rooted and historical for many, many years. I think that overall, early learning does not get a lot of attention, right? A lot of attention is paid to the K-12 system, which is in fact very important, but there's so much data and there's been so many studies done over time that speak to how important the education is from birth. And it is so important that we are ensuring that our youngest learners are prepared to go from kindergarten and beyond. And in order to do that, there absolutely needs to be an investment in early learning. And for decades, and in fact, far longer than decades, historically, early learning has been absolutely underfunded and undervalued and not really in the spotlight. I'm hoping that the tide is changing. We hear a lot of talk about early learning these days. And I think that was one of the, I don't want to say something good came out of COVID because that is certainly not the case, but I think it was highlighted how essential childcare is during the pandemic, when parents needed to go to work. And in order to do that, they needed their childcare programs to be open. And so many did, so many, despite the challenges, despite their nervousness to stay open, they did. Many programs stayed open for the most part. Some shut down for a very short period of times. And that's when we started to see a few things. We started to see many educators say, wait a minute, this is a low-paying job, despite what I'm doing, and I'm putting my life at risk. So maybe perhaps I need to find something different. And also, a better understanding of how essential childcare programs are to a community and for getting people to work, back to work, in work, educated, etc. So interestingly enough, this is an industry that is it's run and operated and staffed mostly by women. And to go even further, minority women. And so we think about that, and we think about, who's running all of these childcare programs and who's staffing them. And then we're looking at the pay of these educators that, I don't know if you've been in an early learning classroom recently. I try to go at least once a month to see the children in the classrooms, and what these educators can do with a huge gaggle of children. We all have, like, so many of us have kids and know how hard it is to, sometimes, wrangle up our own kids, right? With one or two or three, and imagine having a classroom of 20 kids. My hat certainly goes off to all of our early learning educators. And, what they do is remarkable.
Yes.
And it is a low paying salary job, often with no benefits at all. So that's really a challenge to the industry. Right now, we're seeing and we're hearing from our childcare small businesses how difficult it is not only to find staff, but to retain staff. There's been a huge turnover throughout the pandemic. It was there beforehand, but certainly it's been, it seems to have gotten worse through the pandemic.
There are plenty of job openings these days, but there are very few callings. Your community's youngest children need you. Apply for a career in childcare today.
Log on to childcarecareers.org to learn more.
We are back. We have with us Renee Jaffee, who is the CEO of the Early Learning Coalition. We are discussing the crisis that we are faced with as it pertains to early childhood education. So, Renee, we talked a little bit about what you do and how families are served. Tell us more or less, how does the crisis in childhood education really impact the families in Broward County?
So what's happening in childcare is really impacting families because without sufficient staff in early learning programs, the programs can't have as many classrooms. And without enough classrooms, there may not be enough space for the children in the county. Now, in Broward County, we're very fortunate because we have a lot of capacity, which is really great news. There are counties around the state where they have what we call childcare deserts, which means there are no childcare centers in a certain proximity. And it's a huge challenge for many families because there are no programs and there are no spots. So there are a lot of wait lists. So in Broward, we have the capacity, but for certain programs, they are finding themselves in a position where they have to have a wait list because they don't have sufficient staff. So parents may have to go to their second choice or third choice school, or become a little bit more creative in where they're put their children. Perhaps it's not near where they work, but where they live, or vice versa. So that's really how it's impacting families around the county. So we are not hearing from our families that they're having trouble per se finding childcare, what we call seats, right? A place for them to be enrolled, but they may not be able, we are hearing from the childcare community, the providers, the centers, that they do have waiting lists because they don't have the teachers to care for the children. So it is absolutely impacting the families in our community.
You know, it's interesting that we talk about how, you know, the crisis is impacting family. Tell us a little bit, you know, I think you've mentioned with the pandemic, you know, families truly understood the importance of early learning childcare educators. So, and obviously most of these workers are women, and many of them are women of color. And the big word these days, or I should say, we're a little more conscientious about equity and inclusion. Tell us, how is the Early Learning Coalition addressing the issue and the industry overall?
So I think that to your point, what the pandemic kind of showed us was how essential childcare is. If there is no childcare, essential staff can't go to work. Even staff in restaurants can't go to work. Other teachers can't go to work. So every industry is impacted when there is no childcare. And through the pandemic, we did start to see many educators say, well, you know, is this worth it? Am I putting myself at risk by being around young children, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, right? This was certainly an issue. And I think that was such a pivotal moment where people started to say, oh my goodness, childcare is absolutely essential. What are we going to do about it? And that's when we really started, we saw that there was a shortage in childcare staff before the pandemic. But through the pandemic, it became more and more apparent how deep of an issue this was, and that it really needed attention fast, or there was going to be a real crisis. And there is. This is a childcare crisis. We do not have enough early educators. Programs find it very challenging to recruit and retain at this time, and they have for the past few months. But I think thankfully the federal government has provided a lot of COVID relief grants that have really aimed to strengthen the industry and to allow for more support for educators and for programs, right? Especially our programs that they're owned by women, they're operated by women, and many of them minority women. And we need to make sure that we're helping to not only sustain, but strengthen this industry. It is so absolutely important that this industry is supported and that we're strengthening it. And so I'm happy to see that federal dollars are being put to do just that. And not only for workforce supports, there's been many stipends for the educators, not many, but there have been those which have been absolutely beneficial. Dollars for workforce supports, for infrastructure. And so we're really hoping that this investment trickles down to the childcare educators, but also allows additional support for these childcare programs to remain open and successful.
Great. Well, obviously it is an issue that impacts all of us and all industries, as you've mentioned, Renee. How can the community assist in minimizing the impact?
It's a great question. I think that, just highlighting the importance of early education is huge. As a nation, I think everyone needs to be more focused on how important this industry is and how amazing it is to be an early educator. This is not an easy job. It's often a thankless job. So many of our early educators, this is a rewarding job for them, but it's not an easy job. It is not, think about a classroom of babies, a classroom of young preschoolers. It's a lot of work. And many of the staff in these centers, again, they're paid lower wages, some of them without health insurance. And yet we trust them. We trust them with our babies, with our preschoolers, and they are educating them. They are preparing them for school, for life, for friendship, right? They are providing emotional support, nurture in a safe environment. So highlighting how important it is for society to have a strong childcare industry is essential at this time. So everyone looking at childcare from a different light and understanding how important the industry is and how essential childcare educators are is a great first step. And in addition to that, just understanding that there are so many programs like the Early Learning Coalition that have financially assistance for parents who struggle to pay for childcare, and the voluntary pre-K program, spreading the word that these opportunities are available to really help our children from a young age is also absolutely important, and something as a community we can do. We need to be talking about it. All of our municipal leaders, our legislators, our community partners, our faith-based organizations, we all need to come together. We need to collaborate. We all know Broward is collaboration central, and we need that for early learning. We absolutely need to be just spreading the word about the importance of the industry and the importance of early learning educators, and that we need sustained funding for these really important programs so as many Broward young children as possible can learn and thrive and be ready for kindergarten.
It's interesting. As you were speaking, the thought that came to mind is perhaps we have a lot of educators who've retired, or people who are, seniors who are on fixed income, who may be willing to go back into the workforce. And, maybe that's a population we need to look at. They've been there, they've done that, they've raised their children, and it would be interesting to see those who may want an extra income, if that's something they might be willing to do. Because I love the intergenerational idea of putting the two together.
Absolutely. You're right on with that. It's important, and we need to be targeting all different age groups, and we need to be thinking outside the box so that we're encouraging people who may not otherwise think that this is something for them to look into the opportunity. And we've actually seen so much success with marrying early learning and our senior population. It's a great match. So I completely agree with that.
Super. And last but not least, my last question to you, Renee, what is the last word you would like to leave us with?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to thank you so much for having me on your program today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love talking about early learning, and I'm so especially grateful that you're helping to spread the word, not only about our programs, but just the importance of early learning. And for last words, I would say that the Early Learning Coalition, for the first time in, I believe, its inception, we don't have a wait list for our school readiness financial assistance program, the program I talked about earlier. So over the years, we've always had thousands of kids on our wait list. And thankfully, the state of Florida has provided us sufficient funding to enroll all of the children on our wait list. And our staff have worked tirelessly over the past year, and actually, to be honest, the last 3 years, enrolling as many kids as we've been funded to do. And that's created a situation where we don't have a wait list today. And what that means is if you're a family and you think you qualify, you can apply today at our website, elcbroward.org, on the parent page. And within a week, the process will start and you'll have an assessment of your application and someone will reach out to you. So that's pretty huge that there's no waiting list. And the other thing I just wanted to leave you with is that we have this great initiative right now. It's called the Broward Bookworms. At the ELC, we think it's so important that children have books at home. A home library is absolutely essential. And our hope is that there are people in their home that can read to them, whether it's in English or Spanish. And to be honest, it's not even about the words. It's just about the word. It's just not about reading the words. It's just about the words. So even if someone has difficulty reading or reading's not their thing, as long as you're pointing out pictures and talking about what's on the pages, it's a learning experience. And we want to make sure everybody has that. So we started this program called Broward Bookworms, where parents can sign up. There's no cost. And you can get a bundle of books for free. And we'll send them to you. And we send them on a regular basis. And the hope is that you'll build a wonderful library in your home and have lots of literacy, positive experiences that will help each child learn a little bit more.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Now, something else you've mentioned, I want to kind of remind the families about. Obviously, there are dollars for aftercare programs for children up to the age of 12.
That's right. That's right. We do in childcare programs. There are a lot of after school programs around the county that are funded in different ways, some through the school district and otherwise. But we do have funding for children, as you mentioned, up to age 12. And often that's for parents who have other children, younger children in a childcare program. We want to make sure that things are as easy for parents as possible. And if they have one child in that program, that they can have their school age child after school and on, holidays when the schools are closed, that they have a place to go to as well, a safe environment.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Renee, I too have enjoyed our conversation about early learning, the early learning system. And I'm glad to hear that here in Broward County, we're doing better than a lot of other areas in the state and in the country. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. And definitely we'll keep an eye on what's going on and spread the word about the wonderful programs the Early Learning Coalition has. Thanks again.
Thank you.
If you're ready for meaningful transformational work, the children in your community are ready for you too. Apply for a career in childcare today.
Log on to childcarecareers.org to learn more.
80% of brain development happens in the first 3 years of a child's life. So preschool is a critical period. It is when children begin to learn how to interact with others and develop lifelong skills and interests. So to conclude, I want to say that the shortage of workers has a significant impact on each and every one of us. It is a major threat to the future of our community and our nation. We must encourage people to become early learning educators. Employers, on the other end, also have to do the necessary to provide adequate salaries, benefits, and work environment. I want to end the show this evening by thanking all early learning educators and assistant educators, because they are primarily responsible for the growth and development of our children even before they start elementary school. So the work they do is quite important. So with that, if you have found this segment important or informative, if you found this segment informative, I want to encourage you to please share it with others. You could go on our website, you could go on our YouTube channel, share the information. If you like it, we have a Facebook page, like it and share it so that that information can also get to others. So with that, I want to say thank you for tuning in, and until next time, have a wonderful evening. Good night.